Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Open Book. I am your host and founder, Lakeisha Mabry, and thank you for joining us tonight. Y'all, I apologize. We were supposed to do this on, I believe, the 24th, but my daughter got sick, and so I had to take her to the ER. She's okay. She was okay then, and she's okay today. But these panelists are so kind, and they are here tonight. We have a lot that we're going to talk about tonight. As many of you know, we're coming upon our back to school time, and a lot of parents have questions. Teachers, have some things that they're working through going into a year of coming off of a pandemic, going into a new school year. And so, what we want to do is talk to these panelists tonight and try to ask a few questions and see if they can give us some answers that could help us through this time, feel a little more at ease. I know my kids, they started going back to school probably about 3 weeks ago. And so I'm noticing some things that I'll even bring up tonight as well. And so I want you all to just, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat or the comment section, and then we can ask those questions later. But before we get started, we're going to have each panelist introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them, okay? And first, let's go to Mrs. Star Jones-Hurd. How are you today?
Hello, everyone.
Well,
I'm happy to be here. I'm doing great on today.
yay! And y'all, let me let you know, me and the Star, we're like cousins. We go way back. I met a Star, I believe, in high school, because I don't think we went to the same middle school. I think it was
Yeah.
just high school. We went to the same high school. And y'all, she still looks like she's in high school. She has not aged a bit, okay?
You're too kind. You're too kind.
No, you're beautiful. But we were both a part of the band, Wall Trip Ram Band, but then the Star started dancing, doing flags and all of that. That's my thing. I stayed on that trumpet. But we have like remained friends, cousins, in touch and so forth. But she's doing some great things. She has been in education at the forefront of all of this. She even served as a principal during the pandemic last year. And so now she's doing some new things, but she's going to tell you all about the things that she's doing now.
Well, hello, everyone. And again, thank you, Lakeisha, for inviting me to be a part. I'm excited. And to all the other panelists and guests, hello. My name is Asar Jones-Hurd, and I do have 22 years in education. So the last assignment was principal. And currently, I have just opened up my own educational consulting firm, and it's entitled Asar's Purposeful Connections. And so it is my goal, my desire to work closely with school districts and with teachers to support them with all things education and instruction. So that's providing professional development, going into the classrooms, working with them, just anything that I can do to assist them with ensuring that students are successful. That's what I'm doing now.
Wow, thank you. And we're so excited. I know that you're going to do great things with that. You have the heart, the passion. I used to follow you on Facebook and watch like the different things that you did with your campus. And you can really tell that you have a heart to serve. So I know in this next level, you'll do it at an even greater level. So I'm so excited for you. And then our other panelist is Nurse Tammy, who I met through we were going to have two other panelists, but they couldn't today. Through Nurse Phyllis, she referred me to Nurse Tammy. And so I'm excited to learn more about Nurse Tammy as well. We hate that the other two couldn't be here, but we appreciate them wanting to be a part. And it was my fault kind of that we had to change the date. So hi, Nurse Tammy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. So thank you, Lakeisha, for putting this together. I too was in the band, played the flute, and then I switched over to what a star did and decided to be part of the flags. And I was twirling and doing all kinds of stuff my senior year. So I get it. Like I said, my name is Tammy Marshall. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I started Lumen Diagnostic Services because I felt like there were some discrepancies and further disparities during the pandemic pandemic in regards to how people were being treated medically. And I could no longer sit in the background and say, what's going on. And my husband asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to help people. So I have over a decade of experience being in the nursing field. I started at the very bottom as a CNA when I was in college at University of Florida. Go Gators, and did that at night. And then I went ahead and became a nurse. And then 6 years now, I've been a family nurse practitioner. So what we do with Lumen Diagnostic Services, we have a mobile unit. We also have a 45-foot long bus. We go out into the community and we bring healthcare back to the people. So we do that via making sure that you're getting frequent testing done for COVID. We also have strep throat testing, UTIs, what you name it, we can do. And then we also do COVID vaccinations. So I'm really excited to share what I'm seeing in the community in terms of the new Delta variant and how to prepare our kids to go back to school, because I'm passionate about it. So thank you for having me.
Yes, see, we have the right people on here tonight. I can already tell with a lot of knowledge and expertise, and it seems like the heart for what they do. Now, going back, y'all, I must be honest, I'm an introvert, okay? So, all of the Zooming, that didn't bother me. That was right up my alley. And so, going back to school, and if I'm being transparent, I had some anxiety, okay? Because not necessarily just because of COVID, but because there had been a long time between the time where I saw a lot of people in person and now everyone was coming back. Even yesterday, we had a convocation. I told a few people, although I'm an outgoing person, I love to talk, I love people. That was a lot for me to be around a lot of people. I just had to kind of get through that, smile and move on through it. So there are some teachers and students who are coming back feeling that same way. Like there are students who are like, oh, I love virtual learning, but now I'm going to some of them have switched schools. They never got a chance to go in person last year. They're switching schools and so forth. So what are some things that and either one of you ladies can answer this, that we can do to help teachers and students transition and help with their social emotional side of that?
Well, I can speak from just the experience from where we went in March 2020. We had spring break and then we didn't return. So it was, we shifted into virtual land that we were all unfamiliar with. But then it became a part of us and everyone was pretty much, I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but it appears as if everyone was content with just being at home, being safe, trying to service the students as much as we possibly could. And then we had to return back August 2021. So not only, Lakeisha, were you feeling that way, but I can tell you that the faculty and staff in the building, they felt that way as well, including myself, a lot of anxiety. So I would say moving forward, some things that we did learn, we started to implement a social and emotional learning period of the day where the counselor, our school counselor had given the teachers lesson plans that they could use to do mindfulness activities. It could be anything with breathing, stretching, just anything to try to lessen the anxiety before they moved into the actual lesson. And then allowing the students the opportunity to just kind of talk about what they were feeling, what they were going through. People oftentimes forget that they are little humans, so they have stressors and they get anxious as well. And so I would just say, if any principal, any educator, anyone out there, please work closely with your school counselor and to allow them that opportunity to be available for the staff as well, because you have staff members who experience, even they might have had COVID themselves, or a loved one might have had COVID and in some cases didn't make it through. And so you have a lot of emotions and things that are going on. So just being able to have that counselor available. Also, as a leader, I had it was called a like a wellness check-in, and they could type in their name and the Google Doc would come straight to me. So if they wanted to just come in and talk or just pray or what have you, just being that extra support, because we were all in it together. But if those types of things can continue to go on, and especially supporting the staff and the students in that manner, hopefully that will lessen some of their anxieties.
I love that. And just the fact that you made it open where it can be at any time. And a lot of people who want prayer, we would be surprised at how many people want us to pray with them. I think we're going to do like prayer with our teachers, the ones who would like to, that first day of school. And I forgot to mention this because I'm on the panel too, kind of. But yes, I've been in education. This is my 13th year, and I'm an instructional support specialist. So I support the teachers. I work with the students too, on an as needed basis. And so this, I can see it from different viewpoints, from the teacher in me viewpoint, the instructional specialist viewpoint, and the parent viewpoint, because, and that's hard to go in and out of that sometimes because the lines are so close together. But yes, I do agree. The prayer, being open and transparent with the staff about your feelings too. If you're a principal or someone in leadership, let them know it's okay to have those feelings because it's nothing wrong. I mean, we all went through some trauma in some form, whether we lost someone or we didn't. That was trauma for us because it's something that we haven't experienced before. And so just having an open door for people to come and talk. Thank you for sharing that, Astar. Nurse Tammy, do you have something to share?
So, what I realized with COVID, it created a unique atmosphere for us to acknowledge things that have been going on for a long time. I feel like the emotional IQ of students have been diminishing over time due to the increased use of technology. It's beautiful in the forms that it gets us connected to other people, but with that connection becomes some disconnection with the way that we read body language, the way that we interpret other people's feelings, appropriate feelings at certain times, or how to even talk about how we're feeling and verbalize those things. Because what I'm seeing as a provider is that when I have some students come into my office and I'm asking them, so can you describe your pain to me, or can you describe how you're feeling? They don't have the proper words to do it. They look at me dumbfounded and they're like, well, what do you mean is sharp? What do you mean is an achy feeling? What do you mean? Like, I don't understand. And so having now COVID, and we're realizing that, I feel also COVID made us a little OCD. We're constantly pumping that hand sanitizer in. We're constantly making sure that we're washing our hands, the hair's out of our face, and it created this kind of OCD type mentality. And so now we didn't allow people to re-socialize. We just threw them into a situation that people are feeling a lot of high emotions for. And unfortunately, with the climate of the poor emotional IQ that a lot of us have innately developed, it's created like this cascade of events. And so I'm very happy that Astar is, has the counselors on board and having the students do check-ins and stuff, because it's not just post-COVID that these things are going to be necessary or useful. This is a a lifelong lesson that's going to be beneficial for them self-managing and regulating their own emotions. So I'm all a proponent of yoga, deep breathing, the Ujjayi breath, all of that stuff. And it sounds like they're incorporating all of that with being mindful and everything like that. So very, very, very good job.
You said a mouthful, because it's a lot I want to touch on. I'm trying to think of which order to go, but yes, and I am that person because I had gotten in such a routine of the hand sanitizer, and when I go to, I still do all of it. Like it's almost like a robot, where I know to grab this, I know to do this, and so forth. So okay, let's think about the learning part before we even go into the mask and the cleansing part, because there are some, and I believe Astar, I saw you post something about this. I think instead of like a learning delay, that some students may come back with, because not everyone, and I'll just be honest, it didn't work for all students, the virtual side. And there is now a learning gap. Some things we have to get caught up on from last year going into a whole new school year. So, what are some things that the teachers can do, the parents can do to help with this, to get their students built back up, to some of them to get on level?
Well, Lakeisha, I think that I'm well an out of the box person, and I also like to deal in reality. And sometimes when you deal in reality, you can be put in this box like, oh, I don't want to say troublemaker, but it's like you're going against the grain. And I'm going to explain what I'm saying. So when everyone returned back, I would oftentimes tell my staff, do not get caught up in they are not learning. You have to think about it. When we left in March, so we left like the first week of March of 2020, if that child was a first grader, when they came back for August 2021, yes, they are now in second grade, but the learning is still a middle of the year first grader. So we have to, I was just trying to be the voice and the calmness to say, we can only do what we can do. You know, when they left, this is where they left. So we're going to have to take them from where they are and to move them. We cannot beat ourselves up and say, well, they're not learning. Well, now they're in second grade. You have to remember a whole lot of learning was lost. Not only that, there was a great digital divide. Not everybody, although we went virtual, not all students received a device, let's be honest, until when? The summer. And so you have so many different things that were going on. It was not, I mean, everyone, but think about the households that had more than one child, and you're trying to operate off of one device. So there you had a whole lot of different things going on. So what I'm just preaching, and hopefully someone will listen, when the students walk in this year, you take them from where they are right now, work with them in this moment, and try to take them as far as we can. Yes, the foundations, or there's going to be some pockets and holes because of everything that we've gone through, but educators can't get over exhausted and get anxious of trying to make them be per se a third grader when they're still needing that second grade information. But this is going to have to come from the voice of the federal level on down. And if they would like for me to be on that panel to support that, I can do that. But I would say that the educators, you have to give yourselves some sort of grace and mercy. This is nothing that you've done on your own to feel as if you have failed that child. We need to take them from where they are and then take them as far as we want them to go. And so what I had posted, I said that there's not a loss of learning, there was a delay in learning. And so the delay came from even before the pandemic, we had some delay because of things that were going on. Just the nature of everybody doesn't come to school with the same foundation. And so that's what I said. There's a delay in learning, not a learning loss, because they know some things, they didn't lose it. There's just a delay due to the state that we're in right now.
And that's so true. I know y'all last year, seeing it from the school side, a lot of those screens were just black. Okay. The students turned off their cameras. So there was not a connection at all. You couldn't tell if the student was getting what you were teaching because you couldn't see the student. And that was in most classes. There were some teachers that were able to get their students to turn on the cameras. And so with that, even with our district this year, we have it set up where teachers have more time to teach certain things, where if they have to scaffold and kind of bring back some things from the previous grade level in the teaching without lowering the rigor of the lesson, they will have the flexibility and the time to do that. Being patient with students is so important, and being patient with teachers and parents is so important. We have to use grace this year. I know in the beginning, building those relationships, developing those relationships is so crucial. And I will share even a little bit of a testimony with my own child. And it really hurt my heart, but I think I'm getting better. But my son is 3. He'll be 4 in September. And so I was so excited. He had gotten accepted to a Montessori program, but the Montessori program is located on and I'll read the comments in a second. Thank you so much for sharing. Is located on an elementary school campus. Now, coming from the previous school, it was more of a daycare setting where he had one class, two teachers all day. The first week of school, I was hearing, from the teacher that he was having tantrums, or he didn't want to go to PE, and I didn't realize that switch classes at 3. That's a lot of change for a 3-year-old. Multiple teachers, movement, and so forth. By the second week, I had a parent teacher conference with the counselor. And I'm wondering, like, okay, what is this about? Well, before we even got to that meeting, I got a phone call from the teacher one day, and she said that he had thrown his backpack in the shoe, and she had to call the assistant principal, and they put him in ISS. I was in a meeting. I had to cut that meeting short, and I headed over to that school. While I was there, I was praying that the Lord would calm me down, because how do you put a child in ISS at 3 for one? And so I went over there, and I was trying to be as professional as possible. I don't think I said anything rude, but I said, how do y'all put a 3-year-old in ISS? First of all, y'all are not doing that with this one. You're not going to experiment with this one, because I have seen teachers, and y'all, this is passionate to my heart, that they are not equipped or do not know what strategies to use, have not developed a relationship, have not taken out the time to see how a student learns. What should I do for this student before we call the AP to send them off to ISS, or before we put them in programs that they're not supposed to be in? And so, if anything, before we start doing that, any educators watching this, y'all, please take out the time to really get to know your students. Give them that grace in the beginning, because this is hard for everyone. It is a lot going on, coming back into so much unknown stuff, having to learn new people. It is a lot. And at 3, you don't know how to voice that. You don't know how to say, I don't know, y'all. I'm trying to, process this. So imagine younger students, high school students, middle school students that are not going to verbalize that. We have to show them that love. I mean, it is very, very critical. So that wasn't the right fit for him. I did have to, withdraw him from that school. And we're going to find the right fit for him. But a lot of parents have those concerns. So do y'all have any advice, from students who were doing pretty much virtual learning last year, but now they don't have that option this year, and they're going back onto the campuses? What is some advice you can give them to help with that level of anxiety, or to ease their minds about the process?
Well, I know with my patients, when they come in and they're having a tough time expressing themselves, especially if it's anxiety related, we go through what's called intentional grounding, where we can try to trick the brain into processing something else. And by processing something else, then they will start to relax just by themselves. So, depending on their level and their developmental skill, counting backwards from 100 by groups of 7. If they're not at that level yet, like for a 3-year-old, it's just naming stuff. Naming stuff. The ground is red. That's black. And just by naming these things, they start to calm down. Also practicing deep breathing together. The Ujjayi breath that I was mentioning earlier actually stimulates the vagus nerve, which decreases heart rate, gets you back in sync, makes you feel a lot better. And so those are techniques that can be used before, they reach into those type of situations. Like you said, it's tough for everyone, even in healthcare, being burnt out, and now with the second wave, and then people with no vaccinations, no mask, no, it's a free for all, and we're trying to keep you safe. We're trying to keep my family safe. I'm trying to keep myself safe. And so, a lot of us are burnt out. We're experiencing high levels of anxiety. Some of us in our profession are even committing suicide. Some people in our profession are living in isolation because of the fear of contaminating or transferring it to loved ones. So it's a tough situation for everyone to be in at this point. But I do believe, that emotional IQ and having resources available to how to manage those emotions, is crucial, so that child is not labeled as something that they don't deserve to be labeled with, without investigating that emotional piece first.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Star, you had a comment?
Well, I had a question, just a clarification. I was writing something down. Tammy, can you repeat, what did you say? I know you said emotional IQ, but you said the strategy of counting backwards. You had what did you say?
Intentional grounding. It's called intentional
Intentional.
grounding.
Okay, I wrote that down, but you said something else. The EIE.
Demonic something.
Oh, Ujjayi breath.
Yes.
The
Okay.
Ujjayi
Say it
breath.
again.
Ujjayi.
Could you
It's a
repeat
Ooh,
that
yoga
again?
term.
okay.
Ujjayi. So it
I'm
almost
writing it
sounds like you're
down.
doing a dragon breath. When you take a deep breath in, yoga is all about focusing and recentering on your breath, right? The beautiful thing about yoga, which I would definitely incorporate that if you can, a star, is that your body cannot tell the difference between physical stress and emotional stress. So when you do yoga, you're putting your body in particular asanas, right? That's forcing it. Your body's in a particular stressful situation, but the instructor guides you through that asana or that position by making sure that you're grounded in your voice. And so when you, not voice, excuse me, your breath. And so by being grounded in your breath, you kick into that Ujjayi breath, and then you stimulate that vagus nerve. So you naturally calm down when your body is trying to resist a difficult position. So what happens when you practice yoga frequently, your body, when you meet a stressful situation, your body flips that on automatically, and then you start to do that Ujjayi breath on autopilot. It's actually surprising even to me sometimes when I go through it, because I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. My body's doing it. I'm stressed in some form or way, and I incorporate that Ujjayi, and I'm back to baseline. So it has helped me tremendously. I have to do it with my difficult patients too, of course, because of our wonderful governor and the no longer needing mask mandates. I'm having to fight for my life. but but it's tough. It's tough. So I often have to recenter myself, and I go into autopilot when I have those difficult interactions, and I'm like, okay, that's it. And what it sounds like is a dragon breath. So I don't know if you can hear me very well, but it's a deep breath in. So it's like hollowing out the back of your throat and allowing your breath to have a sound to it. So like a, so that cleansing breath, and you can kind of feel it, right? When you breathe out and try to breathe out and hold it for 10, deep, 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 blow it out for 10, you feel it stimulating that vagus nerve. You innately start to get calmer, and it brings you back to focus and center.
You know what? I'm gonna start doing that with
Tried it.
my
I
own
just
kids.
did.
Right. When I have these issues with my own kids, okay, I'm gonna be practicing that. I needed that this morning.
It's actually really good skill to teach your children, because now my daughter does it. She's 3, and we're practicing, some emotional IQ and how to process your emotions without throwing a
I need to
tantrum,
practice
hitting your
that.
brother, so we're working on that. And so Daniel Tiger actually has a good episode about he got mad that his
Yes, my
mom
son
comes in and
likes that.
they count. Right. But we take it one step further, and we do Ujjayi breaths together. We do intentional grounding. And then I will purposely say things to her, like if she does something that I don't like, I say, you know what, Kyra, I did not appreciate that you did that. I told you not to do that, and you did it anyways. When you do that, that makes me feel upset because you're not listening to me. And now I'm sad. So using all of those terminology, to help them kind of know, okay, and process it. Let's work on this together. So sometimes she'll tell me, oh, mommy, I'm so sad. And I'm like, okay, well, what happened? You were not nice to me. Okay, well, what did I do? You told me to clean my room. well, Kyra, I'm sorry that you felt like I wasn't nice to you. However, you do still have to clean your room. But I just love you, mommy. You can love me and you can pay attention and you can clean your room. So I'm validating that she's allowed to feel those feelings. And sometimes she'll tell me no when I ask her to do something, and she'll say no. And I say, you know what? You're allowed to say that. Unfortunately, for this situation, I really need you to do that. And no is not an option for this. But I appreciate you telling me that. But right now, that's not going to work. And so it changes. And sometimes when she is allowed to say no, like let's say it's a shirt, between a shirt or a pant or whatever, I allow her to say no. You know what I'm saying? To allow her to know that it's not a really authoritative per se, but she is a little human and she is getting and trying to get that independence. And I want to encourage that. I want her to question in a respectful manner, what I'm saying or what I'm telling her to do. I think that's important, especially being a woman of color, and being, a young girl. I think that's it's important for me for her to learn those boundaries early on of what she's able, what she's capable, and what she wants and what she cannot do.
Oh, I love
I'm
that.
glad you said that, because that I feel I am now, that's confirmation that I am in alignment with my daughter is 8. But what I tell her, I'm going to practice the emotional IQ, but what I do tell her, I oftentimes tell her, you have a voice and you need to use it, but you need to use it in the right way. And so even in the school setting, you tell me you have a voice, but you need to use it in the right way, because I don't ever want her, or any child for that matter, to be in a situation to where they want to use the voice, but something bad is happening to them, or something is going on that's not right, but they were not allowed to use the voice. So I don't want her to ever. My reasoning for doing it was so at any point in life, if you are ever in a situation, I want you to be able to speak up and stand up for yourself and use your voice, but know when and how to use it.
One of the difficult topics or situations that we had to navigate was the whole bath situation, because I wanted her to feel empowered about her body, about, okay, you don't want to take a bath, but I didn't want to trump on that to the point that now if someone else is telling her something that she's uncomfortable with, that's okay. So that was a situation that I had to do that with a lot of finesse, grace, lots of deep breathing. We had to get down when the nose, I don't want to take a bath. I didn't just say, just get in there, because I didn't want her to feel like she didn't have a voice if somebody else told her to do something that wasn't appropriate. So it was, okay, Kyra, why don't you want to take a bath? Well, I don't want to go to sleep. Okay, I understand that you don't want to go to sleep. However, it's bath time. We do bath time every night. It makes you feel clean, relaxed. This is what has to be done in order for you to go to bed. But I don't want to. And I said, I understand. What we're going to do is give you 5 minutes. You can watch your show for 5 minutes. And after that, we have to talk about going to get a bath, because it's bath time. And then sometimes when she's just, okay, one bath is not going to hurt, but we do revisit. And I do like to do a recap at the end of the day about what mommy did good, what she did good, what mommy did bad, and and so she can tell me, and I want to foster that relationship, and I want to be as transparent as possible, because I'm not perfect. And even if I do something, and I'll tell her all the time, if mommy does something that hurts your feelings, please let me know, because I want to know. And so at the end of the day, we have recaps after our bath. And I'm like, how was today? Did mommy hurt your feelings? Was mommy mean? Yes, you were mean because you didn't give me ice cream. Okay, I'm sorry that you didn't get ice cream today, but maybe if you behave the next time, then you might be able to get ice cream, because there's consequences when you are not being nice. So that we talk, and I talk to her. My mom used to laugh at me when she was real little. I talked to her plainly, because at the end of the day, that's how she has to function in society. People are going to talk to her and expect her to function. So I need to talk to her and respect her and talk to her in a way that she can understand. And as she grows, it gets more complex, but she's doing very well with that approach.
Keisha, can I say one more thing
Yes.
on this? What Tammy was saying earlier about just with the emotional IQ, I was just going to say that she has the training and the expertise and the knowledge to be able to tell us all of this. But when we're in that school setting, we even had counselors, they were trained for school counseling. We're going to focus on bullying, not in what things that you're talking about. And these are the things that are needed. Everything that you're saying, the emotional IQ, I'm writing everything down. I think you said the vagus nerve, just these are things that we were not equipped to know. We just know they need to go in and sit down. You need to have some classroom management, and they need to be taught, and they need to learn, and the data needs to look this way. But you have to, we need, in the school systems, we need that sort of training so that we are able to put a name to things, and then allow the students to be able to express, or just some training period so we can know how to navigate in what we call.
Exactly. I agree. Now, okay, going back, because I know last year, um, the mask mandate was in place until June of last year. But now this year, a lot has taken place with the mask. So first of all, Nurse Tammy, I want to ask you, are masks really helpful? And tell us which ones should we purchase and which ones work best for us.
Masks are absolutely helpful. Okay, so when we're talking, we are admitting droplets, singing droplets, all kinds of stuff, right? Now, with COVID, when we're speaking or singing, those droplets are heavier, so they tend to fall to the ground, but sometimes they can get a little bit aerosolized depending on what we're doing. And so that can linger in the air for some time. So a regular cloth mask for 6 feet apart is fine, in everyday life and in maintenance and stuff of that nature. Now, I know at one point they recommended the double masking. Now, the thing is with the Delta variant, it is highly transmissible. It can go to more people than its previous just regular COVID, I should say. And so because of that, we may need to start looking at a double ply and, different things. Me personally, because I am less than 3 feet or 6 feet from my patients, I'm back in my N95, because, and I'm fully vaccinated as well. And that is because I have young children, a 3.5, almost 4-year-old, and then my 14-month-old son. So I really do not, because they cannot get vaccinated. So my duty is to protect them with herd immunity. Okay. So there are different various masks, putting just something over your face, but it has to be worn correctly. And so that's the other piece with schools, right? The kids get hot, that nose peeks out, it wants to smell what's going on. We're not doing anything when it's not going to be as effective. Now, it's better than nothing, but it's not going to be as effective because we're not wearing it correctly. Washing our hands, when I'm teaching the kids in my clinic, we do a happy funky happy birthday song, and I get all excited and I dance, with them, because I want buy-in for what I'm saying to you, and so masks are important. We saw that masks are important because when the mask mandates expired, okay, they expired, in my professional and humble opinion, a little bit too quickly. What should have happened was we should have had herd immunity first. Okay, when they were expired, we were probably at 40%, if that, vaccination rate in the state of Texas. That was just, we were fighting a losing battle, okay, because we did not verify the people that were going unmasked as those that they were vaccinated or not. We did not know. We were doing it on an ethical, a social responsibility platform, which is fine. However, unfortunately, well, in a pandemic, I don't think that we should be relying on individual people's social and ethical responsibilities. Okay, because once those masks came off, we noticed it became a mad dash to get more people vaccinated. Okay, when the vaccine first came out, it was like in the 90s in regards to keeping you from getting COVID at all. Okay, now that vaccine has dropped to in the 70s from keeping you from getting COVID at all. However, if you're getting the mRNA vaccine, it is still in the 90% chance that if you get COVID, you will not go to the hospital and die. Okay, so what happened when we removed those mask mandates? Only 40% of the people were vaccinated. That left 60% of people that were not vaccinated yet or could not get vaccinated. Okay, so what happened? We ripped off a band-aid to a wound that was not finished healing. We picked a scab to a wound that was not finished healing, and it started to blister, bubble, boil, and now it has exploded. And so now we're trying to play damage control. If we see what's happening in Florida, we need to heed, because what's happening in Florida will transition and happen here. Very similar government styles in terms of mask mandates. Okay, so yes, in the short answer, masks do work. We saw what happened when we were masked, when we were vaccinating, things went down. What scares me with COVID, or I should say worries, because I'm not scared of anything but God himself, okay? But what worries me with COVID is the fact that this thing is year round. There is no season. This thing is peaking and getting momentum in summer. We have not seen what we're about to see yet, okay? And why I say that, we're just now heading into flu season 2, okay? Do you remember 3 or 4 years ago, flu typically infects about 600,000 people in the United States, okay? But that one year that it was really bad, it was about 80,000 people had passed away from the flu. This was in a bad year. Now we got two things that are running together that look very identical to each other. And if we do not take heed and get ourselves ahead of the game, we're going to be in trouble. And now I'm preaching, okay? One of the things I tell my patients, I say, look, I'm a Christian. I understand there's vaccine hesitancy. Christians, we are known to pray. We pray fervently. We pray diligently. We go on bended knee. We fast. That's beautiful. I love it. It's important. One of the things that I like to tell them is that, do you remember the joke of the man that was in the ocean and he was in there and he was drowning? And there was a cruise ship that came. He's like, hey, you need a ride? He's like, no, 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 no. I don't need a ride. I don't need a ride. My God's got me. And so a fisherman came. You okay? Come on. I can help you. No, no, no. I'm okay. God got me. The little fisherman and the raft, all these people came and found this man drowns. And he goes to heaven. He said, God, why didn't you save me? He said, you big dummy. I sent the cruise ship, the raft, the fishermen. I sent all those people. So I'm asking you to check yourself in your heart. We've been praying for something, praying to end this, praying for, how can we get out of this? He gave us 3 choices: Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson & Johnson. And the 4th choice is, if you don't want any of those, you need to be wearing a mask, preferably an N95, and you need to be getting tested with a rapid test every 4 to 5 days. That's it.
Okay, because I do want to get to those vaccines, because I have some questions about the vaccines too myself. Now, going back to the mask, because you touched on a lot of the things that I've seen last school year. Okay, my children were in a daycare setting. The class sizes were, no more than 15. But everyone, teachers and the students, had to wear masks, right? So I can count one time in my son's classroom, and I had pulled them out because it started peaking, cases were going up. I pulled them out right before Thanksgiving. So he wasn't affected, but it was a time that their class had to quarantine. And then my daughter was one student in her class, I think later on that following year, at the beginning of this year, had to quarantine. Only those 2 incidents in that school the whole year, right? Fast forward to this year. Okay. So now everyone has removed masks. Okay. That has gone away. Although the CDC has recommended that vaccinated and unvaccinated wear masks indoors. Okay. I sent my child to school. My son, when he was going, now we're transitioning to school in a mask every day. Now, the difference this year, and parents, I want you to be aware of this, and so that you can prepare your children, as they're going into the schools. is the peer pressure or the lack of I'm not going to say care, but the lack of mm, really motivating and encouraging students to do it. And I'm speaking from the adults on down. Okay. We are the minority everywhere we go. We've gone on trips this summer in the school. When I look around, adults, teachers, students are not in masks. Okay. Now, I'm a believer first. So I believe in prayer. So without masks, without vaccines, I believe God can cover us, protect us. And now I'm not saying do away, because we have common sense and we want to do the practical things as well. Okay. So those of you who are saying, believe me, I'm on Psalms 91. Let's pray this prayer, but also what are some practical things that we can do to help one another? So now I've had to send, a note to my children's teachers to say, could you please encourage, them to keep the mask on, because now they see everyone without a mask. So they're like, oh, I want to take my mask off too. So I had to go through a battle with my daughter for a week, okay, trying to explain why this is important, that you keep yours on. When I see you, I want to see yours on. When I send you in there, I want you to keep it on throughout the day, unless you're eating or you're outside or something like that. Because I think we got too comfortable too soon, like you said. And I noticed that, and the first thing people say is, I've been vaccinated. Well, okay, we're now seeing vaccinated and unvaccinated still getting COVID or the Delta variant. And so in that, I don't know if school districts are going to go back to mandating, with the governor saying they can't. I'm now seeing HISD is one of the first ones that I'm seeing willing to fight that battle and mandate masks. So we shall see this week coming up what they vote on, because I believe we did not have huge outbreaks in schools last year. And I believe that is one of the reasons we did it, because the reality of it is, and I'm not just going to say children, because there are some adults, we don't know how to cover our mouths when we cough. We don't know where to put our hands. We don't know yet how to use hand sanitizer, because I'm noticing those protocols that we were using are going away too. When I go into the grocery store, I don't see people wiping baskets anymore. I don't see people using hand sanitizer. So the least that we could do, I think, to be able to help this is to continue. If we're not going to get, like you said, if we're not going to get the vaccines, let's do the other things, to help, so that we can get this at, rate, because the rate that is going now is a scary rate. And we're not, going to walk in fear, but y'all, we have to be cautious of what's really taking place. And not just think everything is political, but there are nurses, there are doctors out there fighting, they're tired. And some things can be preventable. Some things can be preventable. So just prepare your children that if that's something that you want them to do, to know that everyone may not have a mask on, their teachers may not, but they should not get close to other students. We're seeing children with RSV right now, increase in RSV, and my son had it 3 times as a baby. That is not fun. Okay, to see your child barely able to breathe, congested. So we have that going on. We have flu going on, strep going on, now Delta, COVID. There are multiple viruses going on. So we can't just get so tied into COVID. There are other things taking place. But if we're not ensuring, and if we're in the classrooms, let's make sure we're still wiping things down. Let's make sure we're still giving hand sanitizer, and having the kids not talking too much in each other's faces. There are some things we can do without forcing things, like the governor said, on them. Because like you said, this is, I really wanted to move away from Texas last week because it's foolishness, some of this. I'll say that. I can say that here at the open book. It's some foolishness, okay, taking place, but we're just going to continue to pray that God covers us. Okay, so I want to touch on the vaccine too, because you talked about that. Now, some people are afraid, okay, because of, and I'll speak in transparent side because of the speed of how this vaccine, came out. Also, some things that have been said, but then it looks like we say one thing, but then this changes. And I think some people are just waiting kind of to give it a little more time. Not that they don't want to, but just kind of seeing where this goes. And then also health factors. Some people are saying they have autoimmune issues. Their doctors did not recommend that they get it. So give us more information about the vaccine and what are some myths that you just know these things are not true, like at least 2 or 3 myths that are not true about the vaccine. And what could people do if their bodies will not allow them to get the vaccine?
Okay, so my favorite myth is the magnet on the arm. It drives me nuts. So I put a magnet on my arm yesterday to show somebody that, look, it's not sticking to my arm. Okay, I have gotten Pfizer. It's not sticking to me. I didn't grow any extra tails. Okay, but to be honest and transparent, when the vaccine first came out, I too was hesitant. And I felt nervous. Like, how could they make this so fast? What is going on? This is crazy. Blah, 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 whoop-de woo. Okay. When I started doing my research, I realized that the mRNA technology that is utilized in both Pfizer and Moderna have been around for decades. My interpretation of why it wasn't more widely used in other vaccinations, because it has a high efficacy rate, is the fact that it's expensive. Logistically, we know that we don't like to spend a lot of money making things that's not going to make us more money in return. That's just human nature. Okay. The vaccine, let's take Pfizer, for example, when it first came out and it was developed, it said it had to be at negative 70 degrees. When the CDC started shipping out Pfizer, they told us, you know what, you don't have to have that negative 70-degree freezer. We're going to ship it with the dry ice, a special data logger. It's going to be tracking, blah, 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 because it didn't want people to be a deterrent for you not getting Pfizer, but it was tricky in the way that it had to be managed. One of the reasons why is that it has a lipid nanoparticle. So the lipid nanoparticle wraps around the mRNA messenger protein. Okay, so there's the mRNA, here's the lipid nanoparticle. It's fat. Lipid is fat. So if you can think of when fat gets warm, what does it do? It melts. mRNA is very fickle. So once it is exposed, it unravels and it's no longer useful information. Your body cannot use it, it cannot process it. So with Pfizer and Moderna, it is wrapped in that lipid nanoparticle, okay? The message. So it goes into the body, it reveals, it melts, right? Because our body is nice and warm. That fat melts and receives the beautiful flower, this playbook. It hands the body the playbook and it acts almost like a kamikaze. It dies. That's it. That playbook, once it hands it over, the mRNA has done its job and it's no longer there. Then your body's like, what you say? Somebody coming to get us? You say you have a red shirt, black shirt, blue hair, yellow hair. What? Uncle, get them. You, Billy Bob, get them. And they all get activated. And that's why sometimes when you get the vaccine, you get sick afterwards, kind of mild symptoms, because now your body's on high alert to look out for this joker. It has warned everybody. The second vaccine tends to give people what I call a boosted immune response. So sometimes it's like, woo, is this a real thing? Is this a fake thing? Is this a drill? Is this, and your body's kind of like, oh, it's another drill. We want to make sure we got that playbook. So that's the two vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, because they're mRNA. Now, the Johnson & Johnson or Janssen is use a adenovector. It's what we have going around. It's another virus that they denature and then put the message in there to get it to our body. So it's a little different in methodology, something more familiar with how we make other vaccinations. But again, you can see the difference in terms of its effectiveness to keep you out of the hospital. The mRNA vaccine by far more efficient in doing that. To be transparent, Johnson & Johnson is talking about boosting their vaccinations with an mRNA-like vaccine. Preferably, they were talking about Pfizer at one point. I don't know, they might do Moderna, but yes, Johnson & Johnson is talking about boostering their vaccine because of such the high effectiveness of the mRNA molecule and the way that that vaccine is done. So over time, medicine is called the practice or the study of medicine. So it is constantly evolving. As we know, we do more, okay? Family nurse practitioner, which is what I am, we are versed in evidence-based practice. That's what medicine is. So as more evidence reveals itself, the policies, the guidelines, they change. With COVID, the evidence continues to pour out. And as it pours out, I'm reading all the time. It changes. The way I treat my patients change. It is a fluid thing. So to hold somebody stagnant, it's almost like when we were walking our Christian walk, right? Don't judge me on who I used to be. Judge me on who I am now. So it's just the same thing. When we get more information, we move, we change, we present. Okay, so it doesn't mean that we didn't know what we were doing back then. Back then, that was the most effective and efficient information we had to treat COVID or to do the vaccinations or to keep it at this temperature or whatnot. So as the vaccine has been out for about almost 9 months now, or 9 months, what we've noticed is now, Pfizer doesn't necessarily have to be at negative 70 degrees all the time. We used to only be able to keep it in the fridge for 5 days. We can keep it in the fridge for 31 days. So we're learning more that lipid nanoparticle is not as fickle as we once thought. But again, it's the study and the practice of medicine. What I will say, all the vaccines do not have preservatives, again, which shortens their shelf life. So once that vaccine is punctured, for example, Moderna, 12 hours. Once I puncture that vial, it's only good for 12 hours. Pfizer, 6. So there's different things that it's a very expensive vaccine, okay, to make, manufacture, keep that cold chain maintained, and then delivered, and trust that everybody's doing it in the right way. So that's what I tell people in regards to why it wasn't necessarily used in the past, but we're in a whole pandemic. There's no prices, no money, there's nothing spared at this point, because lives are worth more than the money that it takes to create that vaccine. So that's just what's going on in a nutshell.
Okay, so Nurse Tammy, another issue with this vaccine. Now, I'm pushing. I'm really, because I'm hearing what people are saying. I'm in the chats, comments, and I just read things. So another thing that I saw is this what? Okay, because I'm seeing that a lot of people are saying it's not FDA approved yet. Explain that process and why, or how are they able to administer it if it's not FDA approved?
Okay. So, when you do lots of tests, or when you see students over time, you notice certain patterns of successful students. You notice certain patterns of students that may need a little bit more coaching or a little more help. You can kind of figure out also what their family life looks like just based on the student that's presented to you. So let's take that back now to FDA approval. They have done thousands of research. They have had documents and scored over multiple things. You start to see a pattern when people present to you information. You kind of feel like which way it's going to go in the end. Now, you don't want to jump the gun, because you want to make sure you do your due diligence and don't rule something out or in that doesn't need to be. But the way that the data is presenting itself, it looks like there's a high likelihood that it will pass all the rigors and testing that will need it to become FDA approved. So that's why the emergency use authorization is there. It's meeting these wickets, it's meeting these milestones. It's right on target, right on track for it to get to full FDA approval. But in this emergency situation, they're like, okay, we know if we give it 2 years, if it was on this track, 3 years, 5 years, it's most likely going to get approved just because of all the things that we have done in the past. It's right on target. Do we have that time? Do we have that time? So I've been in practice all this time. Can we afford to wait? And the answer was no. The lives that we could save and the minute side effects or issues with the vaccines was not enough to deem it inappropriate to give it to the public. We weighed the pros and cons, and the pros severely outweighed the cons.
Wow. Okay, so last question, because I'm looking at our time. Y'all are, ooh, there's so much I want to talk about with all of this. Okay, so if people are not able to get the vaccine, are there natural things that they could do? Because I know I've heard take the vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, fish oil. Are there some other natural things we could do to boost our immune systems during this time?
Right. So making sure zinc, making sure that you're getting proper rest. I think that is a hard one to swallow for a lot of people. We have poor sleep hygiene. Okay. So, for example, our cortisol is a stress related hormone. Okay. So, cortisol is released in terms of it increases our heart rate, blood pressure, blood sugar. Cortisol is released when we're in a stressful situation, because when those things are released, you have more energy to get out of a harmful situation. Let's say someone that has a gun, right? However, what we're noticing is that people just sitting still are having these same increases in cortisol, which is increasing their heart rate, blood pressure, and all this other stuff, but they're not using that energy. So at night, cortisol likes to reset around midnight. Are you in bed before midnight for that cortisol to reset? So instead of you getting that cortisol level to move on down, you starting the next day up here and the next day up here and the next day. So your body is already being attacked and not in a healthy state to ward off any kind of enemy. So first of all, we need to get proper sleep hygiene. Need to get in the bed, need at least 8 hours of sleep. For our kids, they need at least 9. They need to get in the bed uninterrupted, having a proper sleep routine, winding down, turning off the lights, dimming the lights, no TV, soothing music. For my kids, people laugh at me when in the beginning when they were born. Listen, they're in the bed by 6 o'clock and they don't wake up again until 6 the next morning. That's how I had been militant since the day they were born, because I knew I wanted them trained in a certain way, because I needed my time to wind down. It's a lot. Being a mom, it's a lot. And I needed to feel me again. So and my husband and I needed to connect again too. And I wanted to make sure I had some time to not only take care of myself, because I cannot pour from an empty vessel, but I want to make sure that my husband and I had time to also connect as well. So now I go to bed at 10:30 every night. I can't function if I get less sleep than that, and I wake up at 6:30 when the kids wake up. But that is my routine. That's just what the number that works best for me. So now my husband and we get 3 hours of good time to spend to ourselves. We can do whatever we want, and then I get an hour to myself. I can do whatever I want. That's glorious. So proper sleep is necessary in order to make sure that your immune system is functioning to its optimal degree. Now, there are some vitamins that your body will just pee it out. It's just going to be expensive pee. So vitamin C, if you have enough vitamin C in your body's going to pee out the rest of that. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't take it, but again, vitamin C, you will pee it out. Vitamin D, when you are having or highly melanated, we don't absorb vitamin D at the same levels as other people. Therefore, sometimes you need to take a supplement. There's also a quick test that can be done, blood draw, to check what your vitamin D levels are. And surprisingly, a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D. Deficient vitamin D looks like aches, pains. You can't even feel depressed, and stuff of that nature. Yes. So it's very important. I highly recommend people to get vitamin D levels drawn. So then vitamin C, like you recommended, zinc, echinacea. Of course, all of these herbal remedies, you should always talk to your primary care or provider to make sure that what you have going on health-wise is okay to take these herbal remedies. And the reason being, a lot of them are heavily metabolized by the liver. So if your liver enzymes are kind of funky, then we throw in some of that, and you're on medication that we can cause a whole lot of issues. So make sure that you follow up with your primary cares, to make sure that those things are okay. Ginger is also good, anti-inflammatory, thins the blood. We noticed that with COVID, It can also cause blood clots. So all those things you can do to be proactive in keeping yourself safe, along with, again, I got to throw that out there, your N95 mask is the best one that you have out there. If you don't have access to that, K95, second best. If you don't have access to that, cloth mask, double masking, don't have that access to that, just a regular cloth mask is fine. But something over your nose and your mouth is important to help stop that spread if you do not want to be vaccinated. And yes, I said also rapid testing every 4 to 5 days. And the reason why I say every 4 to 5 days, if you're asymptomatic, it takes your body about 5 days to start producing those antigens. That's what the rapid tests are looking for. So sometimes you got to test more frequently, like I said, every 5 days to make sure you're not one of those asymptomatic people that is spreading COVID.
Wow. Woo. And that is so true because I think someone said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you can have the vaccine and still be asymptomatic, right?
So one of the funny things, like I feel like I'm in a constant research, so I'm like kind of geeky for this. So in my own personal practice, I've had some people that have tested positive with having the vaccine. What is interesting though, there's sometimes their family members, well, the one that his family members were not affected at all. So one of the things about the vaccine, if you get COVID with the vaccine, the viral load, or the way that it's able to replicate in your body, is lower. Therefore, you're not shedding it to other people. Right. You're not shedding it to other people, as someone who is not vaccinated at all can shed it to somebody else. So that is the theory, is why there's different quarantine requirements. Now with the CDC and the different quarantine and vaccinated, I still err on the side of caution. I still recommend that 10-day quarantine, even if you're vaccinated. That's just, I feel better because it's still kind of new, and that just makes me feel better. If you're positive vaccinated, then I want you to spend 10 days in quarantine. But that is the theory that vaccinated people, yes, they still can spread it, but the viral load in which they carry tends to be lower than someone who never got vaccinated at all and is positive for COVID.
See, I didn't know that. That's why I want you on here. Because you know a lot. You've researched, like you said, you work and see this every day. So y'all, thank you so much. Are there any final words that you would like to share before we end for tonight from either panelist?
Well, it was still some questions that I had for Nurse Tammy. Again, because this is not my field. So, you're just kind of going off of what you just, the main thing I know, wash your hands, put on your mask. But, and I have gotten like, I don't know how many cloth ones, because at one point I was watching CNN like I was crazy, and they did that study. And so they said the cloth ones. So what is it with the N95 ones that I don't know. So what is it like? Why is it suggested that that's the first one versus any other ones?
The reason being is the way that the fabric is woven, it doesn't allow those particles to go in there at all. So with the other mask, the way that it's woven is a little bit bigger holes. So that's why the effectiveness gets lower and lower as you go down. Is the way that it's woven together, and the ability for it to transmit or put stuff in. And then that's just the way that it is, unfortunately.
But not with the little valve on there, right? Not.
I was about to go about the valve, but I was like, I don't know if she has enough time for the valve. So
yeah, I mean, I want to know.
So the thing is with the valve, it protects the person wearing it. But when you're breathing out, some of your breath can get out of the valve. And so that's why there's been some studies that say it's not necessarily as effective for protecting others who are not masked. Because again, out of that valve, if you are positive for whatever reason wearing a mask, it can escape and it can potentially get somebody sick. So yeah, it's good. It's better than, because what's escaping is really not enough. And if you're maintaining your social distance, you should still be okay. But again, it's not part of that top tier like it was once thought.
Okay, so one more thing, Lakeisha, I just have to, I'm serious because this is good. So you got vaccinated in March. We're going into July now. Well, no, we're in August. Is there another we have to keep going back? Or, I mean, that's the study now to see those that were vaccinated earlier, you have to go back and get another, I don't know, the boost, or what is?
So this is where CDC and the individual manufacturers are kind of saying two different things at this point. It doesn't mean that either one is wrong. It's just based on the information that they have and what they are processing at this time. So CDC is saying that they're saying that we may not need a booster. They're noticing that the vaccines may work longer than necessary, blah, 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 blah. Now, individual manufacturers, Pfizer, and most recently Moderna also came out, and Johnson are saying, well, we might need a booster. Now, the thing is that I appreciate about them, they're thinking ahead of the game. Because they're thinking ahead of the game, if we so happen to need a booster, it will be available to us. So it's not a bad thing that they disagree at this moment in time. I'm appreciative that these manufacturers are jumping ahead of the game and saying, hey, what if we don't get the long-lasting immunity that we need? Can we develop a booster for them that will be safe and effective and give them longer lasting range? I'm excited that they're thinking about that. Now, what I notice in personal practice is that I also do antibody testing. So antibodies are what's produced when we aggravate your immune system to make sure that you have the soldiers necessary for protection. Antibodies from natural immunity, I'm noticing people are eating them up within about 3 to 6 months. Now, if you had COVID and you were in the hospital COVID, I'm noticing those antibodies seem to be lasting longer. Some people, I'm noticing a year. If they had antibodies, they were in the hospital a year ago, I'm testing them for their antibodies and they're still there. Now, some people, they were sick last month and I'm testing them and they don't have any antibodies at all. So it's interesting to me to see, like, everybody's body is so beautifully and wonderfully made that we process this information differently and what we were experiencing and what we were exposed to. So it's not a one shoe fits all approach to how we're going to end the pandemic. It's not vaccinated versus unvaccinated. It really needs to change the narrative. Vaccinated, yes, I'm always will say that's probably one of our best defenses that we have. But if you're not going to do that the next second, you have to be masked, frequent testing, period. That's it. That's the second best option. It's not to go maskless and just be like, it's fine, it's okay, because it's not. Because I had a discussion with somebody and they were like, well, in my age group, we're not getting hit like that. So why should I get vaccinated? But if everybody thought that same thing, no one would be vaccinated. We'd be back at square one. At least now with the mRNA vaccine, we have technology in that vaccine that may be able to cure cancer. So out of this pressure that we were under, created diamonds. So yes, I'm excited to see the technological and medical advances that we will have in the future. However, am I nervous about the wave and the ripple effect of the butterfly that we haven't seen yet? Yes, I am, because we have not seen yet what COVID can do. And I'll leave you with this. What I find interesting is that, do you remember the mumps outbreak in the Cedar Hill area about 4 or 5 years ago? When there was little pockets of mumps in the high schools. Okay. So back in the day, way back in the day, when we had mumps outbreaks all the time, these kids grew up. And we noticed that some of those kids were having trouble conceiving. And when we did research, we realized, a lot of these kids had mumps. And then the correlation was made that some kids, when they develop mumps, it can render them infertile. Who would have ever thought that, right? Mumps, your neck's a little swollen, that's it, you go home, stay, who would have thought that? So what makes me nervous is that what are the long-term effects of COVID? We don't know. And I was on a podcast with a bunch of doctors all over the world. And what I found interesting is that they're not having so much of an issue like we are here in terms of vaccination rates and the compliance with masking. They don't have that. For example, Australia shut down for 150 cases a day and are ramping up their vaccine efforts. For 150 cases in Dallas, I think we do that every second. Like, I'm trying to be funny, but I'm not. Like, the mindset is different. And so, like, what is our issue here? I don't know. I guess that maybe the freedom, I don't know. I don't know what the issue is here, why we have so much stark pushback for these type of mandates and regulation. I don't understand, because at the end of the day, I am fully vaccinated. I'm wearing my mask for you because I care about you. I care about your family. I care about your safety. That's it. Because I know that I'm in a high risk population and setting. That's it. So not only for me, but it's for you, because I want you safe.
Wow. Woo. When I tell you all, this has been, when I tell you awesome, we went over on time, but it's worth it. I wanted us to have this conversation because it's much needed. And I love the atmosphere on here because we have heart for God's, but we also, want to utilize common sense, use what, the advice comes from the experts and so forth. And I know, a lot of us have concerns, this school year and just this year, period. But God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I was just led to read this from Psalms 91. Verse 5-7, it says, "Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee." And we just have to believe God, pray to God for covering, for hedges of protection, because there are some things that can go on all around us, and it shall not come nigh unto thee. So continue to just pray that over you, over your families. Continue to utilize the principles that we talked about. Nurse Tammy shared with us some things we can do to stay as safe as possible. If anyone is going through any of these sicknesses that we talked about on here, we're in prayer, believing for your total healing. When you send your children to school, send them covered by the blood, okay, of Jesus. That's more powerful than anything. But also send them with a mask, send them with some hand sanitizer, send them with some Kleenex, send them with their mind. We have to be peaceful and not put our anxiety on our children, because they still have to go into that classroom and learn. We want them to learn and grow and still be successful in the midst of what we're going through right now. So I hope everyone enjoyed tonight. I can tell you I really did, and we may have a part 2 to this, because there's still some things that may come up. We're going into a new school year, and I know we're trying to get back to normal, but we're not there yet, okay? And so we'll see how this goes. Sister Lavonda, thank you for being on here with us as a live participant tonight. And I thank you, ladies, for being panelists tonight. And thank you all for watching tonight and being a part of this open book, back to school open forum. So we will see you again this month, because we have extended our Children's Month, and we have some great authors that are also going to come on and discuss some potty training tips for those of you who are in that stage. We're almost, I think we're there, but I want to make sure. But she's going to give us some good tips on potty training. And we have another author that has written some children books. So be on the lookout for details. Join our Open Book Facebook page. I share all of the information, the flyers, and so forth. But thank you all so much for joining us. And Astar, how can they get in touch with you and follow you? Do you have any Facebook, Instagram that you would like to share?
Yes, I do have my Facebook page for the business, and it's just like my name, Astar, but it's Astar's Purposeful Connections, LLC. And then I also have my website, which is astarsconnections.com. And then Instagram, it's at Astar's Purposeful Connections. So everything is on there. So, but if you go to the website, astarsconnections.com, it will lead you to the Facebook as well as the Instagram. And then I just most recently started the Educator Architect Facebook group. And in that group, we are going to just help each other with strategies and different tools and things that will support with instruction.
Oh, I love that because I love some good teaching. Okay. Okay. And then Nurse Tammy, how can we follow you?
So I'm also on Facebook at Lumen Diagnostic Services. And then we also have a website, www.lumin, LUMINDS, as in diagnosticservices.com. And then if you want to email me with questions that you didn't feel like you can answer, I answered appropriately on here, my email address is Tammy, TAMMY, Marshall, MARSHALL, at Lumin, LUMINDS.com. And our phone number is 469-773-9261. You can call or text that number as well if you have any questions, concerns. And we have a vaccine drive tomorrow. So if you want to come out to get your vaccinations, we have Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna available. We'll also be doing rapid COVID testing. COVID testing requires an appointment. Okay, so do not come to the location without an appointment if you want to get COVID testing, because you need to stay in your car. But yes, we will be at 419 North Cedar Ridge Drive in Duncanville, Texas. Okay, so hope to see you, meet you, greet you, whatever. But look out for information from us, and I'm willing and open to answer all questions as transparent as possible and with the most evidence-based information that I have.
Thank you so much. And also, I'm on Instagram under MS Keisha, KEISHA, 1297 on Instagram. And the open book is called the Open Book Book Club on Facebook. This has been a wonderful night. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.